Looks like we're getting serious around here now. We got the track car up on jack stands, the hood's up, and we've dedicated this space for a fairly lengthy process. That's probably going to take till the end of the month. What we got to do is we got to get the transmission in it, put the exhaust system back in, do our brake modifications. We're going to double check the pinion angle on the differential and a few other things as well. So we need to get started. Dang it. The first job we're going to tackle on that list is the reinstallation of the manual transmission. A lot of you people are going to be really interested in how you can do this sort of conversion for your car. What you need to understand is that late in the fall I'm going to do a video series on how to do this type of conversion in a street car, because this is not real applicable to a street application. And so while I ask you guys for comments all the time, I really can't tell you much at this time about this conversion other than what I did, why I did it, that sort of thing. So if you like these kinds of things, it'd be really important for you to subscribe and hit the notifications button and like and so forth, so that we can keep this thing going and do that sort of thing in the future. So I got stuff to do. So a lot of Jaguar XJS owners would really like to have a manual transmission in their car. Well, you're not going to find any that came from the UK that way. There are a few of them out there that have been converted, but in all likelihood what you're going to have to do is have it converted yourself. Now, okay, that's not a big deal. All you got to do is come up with $5,500 and another $1,500 to have somebody install it. Boom, you got yourself a manual transmission in your XJS. Not all of us have that kind of money laying around. So back in the early part of this century, I started getting on the forums and discovering what I could about manual transmission conversions. And there were some people that were wondering about how you could do it yourself. And I began to ask a few questions, and there was a guy named Charlie who encouraged me when he said that if you can't afford a proper transmission conversion, perhaps you should take up an activity that is less financially rigorous, like golf or tennis. At which point I decided, okay, I'm going to build myself a manual transmission conversion for less than $2,000. And I did. You should always be thankful for the people in your life that tell you no. The heart of a manual transmission conversion is the transmission. Now this one is a Borg-Warner T56 6-speed transmission. And at the time, what I was thinking was, you know, 6 speeds are better than 5, which are better than 4. Now, this particular transmission is out of a 1996 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. And it is virtually identical to other transmissions, T56s, that are located in things like Mustangs and so forth. Splines on the ends are different, but very much the same transmission internally. And I found this transmission on eBay out of Oklahoma for $650, and I believe that was including freight. So it was in need of overhaul, and so I bought it, got it delivered, and it was time to move on to the next step in the process. The next problem that needs to be solved is how are we going to attach this end of the transmission to this end of the engine? Now what you need to do that is come up with a bell housing of some kind. Well, fact is, You can buy one of those for $500 if you're made out of money, but I was not at the time. So I had to come up with a solution. And the first thing that I looked at was to buy a used bell housing off a Borg-Warner automatic transmission on a pre-HE Jaguar V-12. And I modified the front flange to go to the engine because the dowel position is different on the pre-HE engine and my car, which is an HE. And that worked fine. But the problem was that doing some measuring, that depth of that bell housing was going to be a problem, because the distance from here to the flange that was going to bolt to the bell housing is really short on this particular transmission. It was an LT1 small block GM engine, and it had a very short bell housing. So I was going to have to mill that down and weld a new flange on it, and it finally occurred to me, you know what, it wouldn't be that hard to make my own bell housing, because fact is, a bell housing is just one flange that bolts onto the engine, another one that bolts onto the transmission, and then just roll a steel ring of the proper dimension in between the two and weld it in place. Now actually it's a little more involved than that, and we're going to go into that in another episode later. But I found out that that actually worked very well. That first bell housing that I experimented with, it's on my test running stand that I used to mount my V12 engines on there when I pre-run them. So now I had a bell housing, and that it was a fairly easy thing to make. However, the really critical thing is that this shaft right here has to be exactly or within 0.005 of an inch concentric with the end of the crankshaft. So that's really important. The other thing is you got to come up with a starter blister, which basically involved cutting out a football shape piece of metal that looked like it was going to work, heated up red hot, and then bang it into the end of a stump that I had made a little depression in with the tip of a chainsaw. And you know, that worked just fine. So now I had a bell housing. Time to move on to the flywheel. Now again, the solution to the flywheel problem could be just as simple as laying out $500 for a flywheel for that particular conversion. But again, that's not an option here. We need to do this on the cheap. So what I did is, first of all, chose a clutch that was suitable for racing purposes, and that would be the 7¼ inch Tilton multi-disc clutch. And what that did is it reduced the diameter of the flywheel that I need down to about 7¼ to 7½ inches. Now, this is an example of one that you can get pre-machined with the exception of the bolt circle on the inside. Quartermaster makes one of these so that you can adapt one of these clutches onto any engine that you wish. I didn't know this existed, so what I did is I bought a piece of steel, forged round steel that this could be machined out of. And then I roofed a machine shop owner's house so that he'd machine this thing for me. And basically it was like a round puck of material with this flange on the inside, and the bolts for mounting clutch actually went all the way through the 3/16 thick steel flex plate, which is kind of a misnomer for the Jaguar V-12 flex plate because that sucker ain't flexing. So anyway, this solved my flywheel problem. Now the clutch is a 7¼ inch Tilton multi-disc clutch. It's got 3 clutch discs and 3 sets of plates. That what that does is takes the large clutch that has 1 disc and 1 pressure plate and 1 flywheel and condenses it down into one 7¼ inch unit. The purpose of that is, number one, it increases the amount of area of the disc surface that you're using to engage the engine to the transmission. Also, it reduces the amount of inertia necessary to accelerate the engine. So you put a clutch like this on your engine and it accelerates very quickly and decelerates very quickly because of the reduced weight of this unit. This pressure plate right here is very simple, very lightweight, and it's made out of aluminum. That's the good news. The bad news is these things do not tolerate slipping. They are either in or out. If you try to slip it, it's a metallic disc and they're going to burn. And it just isn't going to, unless you live in North Dakota where there aren't any hills, this is not a good choice for your street car. And this clutch goes on the flywheel like that. And it bolts down like this. So that's your clutch. Now, as far as the throwout bearing is concerned, Tilton also makes a variety of hydraulic throwout bearings, which fit on the clutch like this. And this is the front cover of the transmission, and there's a certain amount of clearance that has to be in between the two, and you can adjust that by threading this portion in and out to get the right distance between here and here. We will discuss this process during the course of putting the transmission in. And now you got a clutch and a throwout bearing. Now this Klingon bird of prey looking thing is the rear transmission mount and cross member. And this is a very simple thing to make. It was a matter of simply jacking up the rear of the transmission so that the center of it was the same distance above the concrete floor that the center of the turbohydromatic 400 transmission was, being that they are going to have to be along the same center line, and then just build something that actually connects the rear of the transmission to the bottom of the chassis. Now the next question is, what do you do about a clutch pedal? Well, this is a stock pedal box from a Jaguar XJS. This is the side that the servo for the power brakes is bolted to. That hole right there is the hole for the pivot of the brake pedal. But over here, we've got a couple of tabs that have been welded on that are going to be used to support the new clutch pedal. And as you see right here, the original pedal box has the area cast into it that the manual transmission clutch master cylinder is bolted to. So really, it's a matter of making some place to mount a pedal, drilling that out to accept a master cylinder, and then building a pedal. More on that in another episode. But it's really that simple. The clutch master cylinder went on eBay and I found this thing. It was short enough to be able to get it in under the hood, and it was 3/4 of an inch in diameter, the bore for the piston inside of it, which is what the manufacturer recommended. And the issue with this was that it was intended to be used in a horizontal position, so a plastic reservoir fit on here. And of course, it's not going to work in that orientation. It needs to have gravity feed it this way. Now, I had to manufacture this plug right here, which has a groove cut in the bottom side for an O-ring to seal in between the master cylinder and this, and it bolts on with that 1/4 inch bolt right there. And it works perfectly. And of course, there's the line that takes the fluid down to the clutch. And right here, well, actually, it's kind of hard to see. There we go. Right here, we have the mount for the fitting that takes the supply hose down to the clutch, and then this is the return. This is the bleed line right here. Now, during the course of this, we're actually going to take the bleed and move it up into a more convenient position. I'm thinking maybe right up here, because it's a real pain in the neck to do that job with this thing buried way down there. The drive shaft was pretty easy. Now, the back of the Turbo-Hydromatic 400 transmission has a flange on it that actually bolts to the tail shaft of the transmission. And at the other end, I believe it's the rear end, can't remember right now, of the drive shaft, you have a splined slip joint that compensates for any movement of the rear suspension unit and the engine, so that there's a little bit of compliance there. Well, you don't need that. We just needed a one-piece drive shaft, because at the front of this is a splined coupler that slides in the rear of the transmission, and it serves the same function as that spline part of the drive shaft. I think this cost a couple $100 to have made. So by the time we got all this done, I had, I believe it was about $1,800 in the whole thing. Now the transmission, even though it needed an overhaul, I decided that I was going to run it a while, see exactly how bad it was, and the fact is, it lasted 2 track days before it finally gave up. And the thing that gave up on it was relatively minor. So eventually I did have the transmission overhauled, but for street use it would have been perfectly good. It was a good value. And speaking of value, if you find any in these videos, it's really important that you push that subscribe button down below there, click on the notifications, like, and maybe leave a few comments down below so we can know what we can do better. So we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicles.